Oh my God, it's the man.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hey, Paul.
You ready?
Yeah. How's this?
Much better.
Listen, don't get me started.
Hi, Carlos. Hi, Carlos.
How you doing, SA?
I'm good. COVID's been interesting, but we're all alive and healthy. A few of us have had it, but we got through it.
Yes.
So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So I have lots of questions I've never asked you. Are you up for answering a few questions, Carlos?
Sure, I have a lot of answers.
You may not remember, but one day you put me in your car and you drove me to a corner in Marin County and you said, this is where I used to open my guitar case and play on the street corner for money. Do you remember doing that?
Vaguely. Probably Sausalito.
Yeah. And what I want to know is that whole period of time in San Francisco must have been a magical musical time in the 60s when your band started to play. And, you know, there's so much history from that whole San Francisco music scene, and you were right in the middle of the whole thing. How do you remember it? How do you experience it? What can you share with people about how that whole thing was?
Well, for me, it was like a child coming to Disneyland for the first time and having a big roll of tickets to ride any ride that I wanted to. I have free popcorn, strawberry milkshakes, corn dogs. In other words, being in San Francisco at the epicenter of consciousness revolution with the Grateful Dead, Quicksilver, all of that, plus Mongo Santa Maria and Olatunji and Miles and Ravi Shankar, Jimi Hendrix and Tito Puente, and B.B. King was a multi-dimensional gift for me because I got to learn from anything that I love. I could learn. That's a key thing. Just like your tenacity to follow your clarity, the things that you believe, allow for you to be right up there with Gibson and Fender. And sometimes, I remember a lot of times, your guitars were on more videos than their videos, in the 80s and 90s. So we both have something in common. We've been blessed to be at a time and a place where we can give birth to our dreams, and they roll, they grow, and they expand. We're very blessed, you and I.
So in my town, I agree, Carlos. In my town, it was Danny Gatton and Roy Buchanan and Emily Harris, and there were all these extraordinary musicians, Chuck Brown, and we had all these people that were producing music. It was coming out the same kind of list you just gave, but we had a DC thing, Parliament Funkadelics from here, and it's so much music going on, so much jazz being taught. These drummers, if they learned Parliament Funkadelic and there's jazz, they could play anything. And Dennis came out of that. Dennis Chambers came out of that. And Greg Granger came out of that. He ends up in Whitney's band and got all this music. And I was in the middle of it. And I didn't think of it as Disneyland, but I thought of it as like being a pig in shit. I just like swimming in the mud of all of it. I loved it.
Like I said, it's a blessing to be a blessing. And especially for us because we were aware that we were giving a gift of multidimensional expression, and so to learn from Tito Puente and B.B. King and Bill Graham and Clive Davis and Miles Davis, when they all look at you with eyes of encouragement, I've been really, really blessed that people went out of their way to stop what they were doing and look at me and they told me literally, walk like a giant, you're one of us. And I was like, ooh, and I cause at that time I was still looking at myself like a perpetual student always. I still do because I like to retain and maintain that innocence, that student learning thirst for adventure. But I also have learned to accept that I am one of them. You know, I am a representative of B.B. King and Tito Puente and all the people that I love. I am them, and I represent them well, I believe.
When did you first pick up the guitar? When did you first fall in love with the guitar? And how old were you? And what happened?
What happened was my mother took me to the park because she saw that I wasn't playing the violin anymore, and my dad came to San Francisco. We were still in Tijuana, and because I didn't necessarily love the violin, the smell, the sound, or the feel, you know, I was disenchanted with kind of with music, you know. So she took me to the park, and I saw this band called the TJs, Javier Batis and the TJs, and this cat had a big mop, kind of like Little Richard, and he was a component. He still is a component of three people: Little Richard, B.B. King, and Ray Charles. I mean, that's what he is. That's, you know, like Peter Green, it's B.B. King, and Michael Bloomfield. This cat was like that. So when I first heard that sound of the guitar coming out of the amplifier and bouncing against cars and buildings and the sky, and for me it was like discovering my first UFO or a white whale. You know, I was like, dang. I knew right away, immediately, that was my calling. That was going to be my only focus and vocation. You know, so I followed this guy everywhere he went. He allowed me to come to his house, and he had a piano, and on top of the piano, he had a bunch of cars, because at that time, people were into putting cars together, little hot rods together with glue and painted them. And so he had a bunch of that, and he had a lot of records, Kent records and King records of B.B. King. And, you know, and I just immediately became focused on the sound. Why is this sound of B.B. King so attractive to Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, Michael Bloomfield, Peter Green, Eric Clapton? We all came from BB one way or the other, and then we discovered our own fingerprints. But for us, it was B.B. King. Maybe for B.B. King, it was T-Bone Walker. Who, you know, everybody has someone they follow and they learn from. And eventually, of course, I learned to wean myself away from BB by discovering Gabor Szabo or Wes Montgomery or Miles Davis or Coltrane. But I always had my sound. As much as I wanted to sound like them, uh, the Supreme Masters, B.B. King and Otis Rush, you know, I would lock myself in a closet and close the door, and it was like pitch black. And then I would hit it, and I would play the records, and I try to get close. And the closer I want, the closer I thought I was getting, and then I play back what I was doing, I sounded like me. I couldn't sound like them because I couldn't sound like them. So I accepted you're not supposed to sound like them. You're supposed to sound like you. So embrace it, sculpture it, nurture it, and be grateful.
Mm-hmm. I like that answer. It's different than my answer, but it's a beautiful answer. Mine was completely different. I got exposed to a Jimi Hendrix record without knowing what it was, and when I got done listening to Carlos, I was not the same. I was done. It was over.
Yeah, the difference is that some people say, oh, when I first heard Jimi Hendrix, I just wanted to quit and stop and whatever. Or when I first heard Coltrane, I just like, no, I don't think like that. I think like, damn, that's incredible. However, there must be something that I can do that they don't do.
Right.
You know, I got my own fingerprints. God bless the child has got his own. And I never was intimidated, that's the word, by other people's great gift. I was inspired and uplifted and encouraged, but I don't let people intimidate me, you know, because I don't let my ego go into the being a victim or a villain or less than. You know, I feel like, okay. So I learned from Gabor Szabo, and then you know, there's actually a poster with Jimi Hendrix, Gabor Szabo, and the Jefferson Airplane. You know, so I started getting into Bola Sete and Gabor Sabo and other musicians. And then I realized Segovia and Paco de Lucia or Manitas de Plata. And I realized that Django Reinhardt is about what you articulate. It's a big dimensional menu. The next time, if Jimmy was here and he hadn't left, he'd be coming to see a Santana concert. You know, I have total confidence in my clarity because we're both children of learning to articulate the language of Africa, whether it's to the blues or to rhythm, you know. And when they told me, man, when you guys came on at Woodstock and Jimmy was looking at the movie, you guys blew him away. He was like, man, you know. And that's because the drums, Chapito, Carabello, and Michael Shreves and Greg Rowley, we had a whole other thing that was different, you know. And so I have to, on one hand, be with gratitude and humility. On the other hand, you have to have confidence in your clarity and your certainty, you know, because when you show up, you can't be thinking, you know, competition or comparing. You know, you have to think, I'm going to compliment whatever gets in front of me. And I mean compliment to the point of silence or to the point of when you play, people say, man, how do you know what to play when you're next to Aretha Franklin or Tito Puente? You know, well, you don't think about it. You just, you know, they do what they do, and then when it's your space and time to do what you do, just present your heart. And then that way you will always be invited.
It's true.
Back.
So, Carlos, I've asked you a bunch of questions that I've never been able to ask you before. Do you have any questions for me that you're interested in, you know, in any of the things that I might have not revealed to you?
I think the only question that I would ask you is like, do you know how significant and meaningful you are to a lot of people who have yet to pick up a guitar? Because when they pick up a guitar and it's your guitar, I brag and tell people all the time, every time Paul sends me a guitar, it arrives in tune. And I don't have to pull the strings and yank them and, you know, and scold them. No, they're in tune, you know. So I congratulate you because the audacity of spirit for you to give birth to an instrument that many thousands and millions of people find their own fingerprints, you know. And the beautiful thing about your guitars is that I don't think about whether I'm in tune or not. You know, I trust that they stay in tune, you know, and that's, so do you know how to validate, celebrate, you know, your own spirit?
Mostly the answer is yes.
Good.
But a little bit, I'm always at rehearsal working on the tunes. I'm always working on the groove. I'm always working on the chord changes, the vocals. So I spend most of my time trying to make sure that that if somebody has saved a whole lot of money and they get a PRS, that what they got in the case was up to the snuff of what they dreamed about. So, but you said something once, you were playing in Philadelphia and the Who were playing and you were playing and the Clash was playing, a whole bunch of bands playing. And you looked at me and said, I know who I am in the industry. I know what my position is. And I can say the same thing, Carlos. I know who I am and I know what my company's position is and I know who we are in the industry. but I see myself as a student just as you do, and I'm constantly trying to learn, and I want the next guitar you get to be better than the last one. I just don't want to repeat the old song. So I would say mostly yes, although you've told me a few times straight to my face that I needed to deal with it a little bit better, and I took that to heart. You wanted me to deal with the honoring what has happened and the history of the company, and you wanted me to hold my position and not betray it in any way.
Yeah, because I've seen people sell out to Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola, or they lose confidence in their own ability
Mm-hmm.
to maintain the standard. I have no doubt that if Pepsi-Cola, Coca-Cola, or somebody else, they immediately would water it down. It wouldn't be the same because it's not your heart. And to me, my relationship with you, we're both lovers of each other. I love your impeccable integrity to who you are and what you do and how you do it. And I am a lover of the same thing. Even if it's just one note, and even if it's just one guitar, that guitar can shake the world's foundation, played correctly, and so you have to have a sweet balance of humility and tenacity, and then you will be able to do the impossible and do incredible things and miracles and blessings. I learned a long time ago that people who tell me, you should just shut up and play your guitar. I learned that usually most people who say that, they have a complex. They don't realize that I can say my truth with my fingers or with my tongue. And if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to listen to it. But I'm not a one-trick pony. I don't just play the guitar. God gave me the ability to bring unity and harmony. Look at Woodstock. Who would have thunk that 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, this band would just bring everything together like this. Bam, Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. And people were like, what? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Bang. And then we started playing. And people were like, all of a sudden, 550,000 became one heart. How many musicians do you know, other than Coltrane and Bob Marley, and a few others that can bring it all together with unity and harmony and have a collective consciousness awakening frequency? That's what real musicians are to me. They're beyond this or that, man. They just bring all hearts as one, and there's no conflict. There's no borders. There's no, separation. That's what music's supposed to do. Elevate people so we can see ourselves as like you and I, man. You and I are one. We really are. You breathe in, I breathe in. You breathe out, I breathe out. There's no separation between you and me.
My peanut gallery calms down when you talk. I like it. I love it. So thank you so much for doing this with us. These things have been going extraordinarily well. The amount of people seeing them worldwide is astronomical. COVID kind of forced us into doing it, but I kind of love that we got forced into doing it, because then we're having this conversation that's going to go all over the world. And I really appreciate your heartfelt support of all this stuff. And, I hope I keep sending you stuff that gets your attention.
Let's have a new slogan, man. Heal the world. Get yourself a PRS and play your heart out. Heal the world. Get yourself a PRS and play your heart. That's it.
I've got a lot of people in the room with me. He just said the other piece of why our guitar is selling so well during COVID, because people are bringing them home to heal. We're selling a lot of guitars during COVID because people are playing them on their couch while they're stuck at home.
Yeah, next time we talk, you and I, we can create a menu of what songs to play on. Like for me, Marvin Gaye, Trouble Man. Plug in your guitar and play the whole album. Stick to it. Michael Jackson. Like that. Sketches of Spain. Plug in your PRS and be side by side. And next time you and I will just take our time and create like 7 to 27 music that if you sit down and play with it side by side, you will be a better person and a better musician. Okay?
Perfect. I'm in. Let's do it.